This was the much-anticipated announcement that the Prime Minister made this morning, saying that India has joined the League of elite group of nations with the capability of taking down a satellite. Joining us now is the former DRDO Chief Vijay Kumar Saraswat, who is now a member of the Niti Aayog. Mr. Saraswat, thanks very much for joining us here on CNBC-TV18. Sir, for the benefit of all of our viewers, I want you to explain to us the significance of this move. I'm also given to understand that this has been something that India has been working on since 2012 when you were at the DRDO. In fact, I've seen several reports quoting comments from you from 2012, which talk about how we had the building blocks in place to be able to provide for such an eventuality.
Yes, I think you are right. After the launch of Agni 5 and also interception of a ballistic missile in an exo-atmosphere in 2000, late 11, based upon the confidence of these two projects, I had made a statement that India has the building blocks for demonstrating the satellite interception. This does not mean that at that point in time we were 100% ready for doing the launch within zero time.
Okay.
What we had done at that time was the theoretical simulation of our performance of various technologies and ensuring that based upon this we will be able to demonstrate a kill, provided we are given a clearance, and we also work on 1 or 2 years of developing the missing links, which were 1 or 2 missing links at that time. So this was presented to the press, to the government and to everybody, that India is now ready for taking on an anti-satellite launch program.
Just to take that conversation forward, sir, you said that there were a few missing links in 2012 that needed to be put in place, and obviously those have been put in place. One of the considerations for not going ahead with an actual test of this kind to target a live satellite was the issue of debris, and that was a comment that you made as well, that such a test risked showering lethal debris in space that could damage existing satellites. Instead, India's ASAT capability would be fine-tuned through simulated electronic tests. So this was one of the significant considerations weighing against carrying out a test, an actual test, which is why the simulation route was preferred?
No, when I am talking of simulation, it is a ground-based simulation. It is not the attack of a interceptor against an electronically simulated target. No, we had planned at that time that we will do the demonstration in 2 steps. First step would be to go for an electronically simulated satellite and then do an interceptor, real interceptor.
Okay.
And having obtained success on that, we would go for the real satellite and show its interception. That was our plan, which we have put across to the government. And that would have reduced the number of debris, because suppose the one was not successful, we'll have to repeat again and think like that. Now, that was our approach. Also to perfect our software, we had done this kind of a planning.
Okay. I want to ask you perhaps a little uncomfortable question, sir. Are you concerned with the politicization of this breakthrough, of this achievement? I'm quoting to you what the BJP party president Amit Shah has tweeted, saying the truth is our proficient scientists always had the talent and capability. All that was needed was the go-ahead from the government. The UPA did not have the courage to back its institutions and people. The NDA under Prime Minister Modi has. Does it concern you, sir, that this breakthrough on the part of the DRDO is getting a political colour?
I think those who are giving it a political colour are doing it always with an ulterior motive. As far as scientists are concerned, once they are given a clearance by the concerned political government or the government body, they work in the mission mode and they decide the time steps right from the design to development to testing and finally launching a system. This works on a particular mission mode exercise in which timings are decided. It is not synchronized or done with the kind of political atmosphere that exists at any point in time.
Okay.
We only tell, look, we are ready now. We are going for a launch. That's all we do. So to now say that we are synchronizing it with the particular activity which is taking place in terms of elections and all that. It is only those who want to belittle the achievement of the scientists and also have some ulterior motives to actually denigrate the present government. As far if this launch would not have been feasible had not our Honorable Prime Minister Mr. Modi given the clearance to DRDO about 2 years back for going ahead with this program.
Okay, so you're saying that a clearance of to be able to carry forward this test that we've undertaken today was given 2 years ago?
Yeah, probably. I mean, this is an estimate. I'm not right now in DRDO, but whatever missing technology blocks were there, if those have been developed, and I know from my experience the development time for doing such an exercise would take anything between 1.5 years to 2 years.
That's the question that I wanted to ask you. I understand that you're no longer in the DRDO, you're sitting in the Niti Aayog, sir. So in your assessment, for this to have been carried out in mission mode, as you called it, the government would have had to give the go-ahead to the DRDO at least 12 to 24 months in advance?
Minimum 1.5 years to 2 years, yes.
Minimum 1.5 years to 2 years. So explain to us, Mr. Saraswat, where does this leave India? The Prime Minister talked about how this secures India and secures India's space infrastructure, but there are also international treaties that govern weaponization of space, so to speak. We saw widespread international condemnation of China when it had carried forward an anti-satellite test. Do you believe that the manner in which we have carried out this test will not receive similar treatment?
No, you see, we have to understand the following. As far as the warfare is concerned today, it is having 4 dimensions, not 3 dimensions: land, air, and underwater. The 4th dimension, which has emerged with the progressive or intense use of the space assets, is the space warfare. Now, as on today, the utilization of the space objects is being done by all militaries across the globe for navigation, communication, surveillance, and many other activities. Besides, of course, large number of civilian activities like disaster management and finding out natural resources and education programs and so on. Now, obviously, in a war-like situation, there is a possibility that one could have if a country is put on back to the wall, can take steps to play with your space assets, and that can lead to a very serious situation. And what should be our answer in that situation? For that, ASAT is the answer, and that is what we have achieved today as a deterrence. Like we have the nuclear warheads, which we will never use unless provoked to the extent that our back is on the wall. This will never happen, and that's what we have done today by having ASAT. We will never use it, but it is a deterrence which will keep the enemy away from taking a step against our space objects.
You know, you said that this is a deterrent now in India's arsenal, and you're right, no country, even the ones that have the capability, have used this so far. But let me go back to the point that you raised, Mr. Saraswat, about putting the building blocks in place post-2012. Your comment also to suggest that people who are raising questions around the timing of this test are belittling the efforts of the scientists. But what about, as I mentioned, politicization on the part of the ruling party, sir? The comments made by, for instance, the party president Amit Shah. Would you say that it's fair to say that just because the UPA did not, or the UPA government at that point in time did not give the go-ahead, you would have been able to go through with this? Because as you pointed out, that there were several missing links that needed to be plugged at that point in time.
Yes, unless the clearances are given, no scientific activity can be pursued because it requires the necessary human resources and also the financial resources. And clearance means that these resources are in place and then the activity is taken. Those resources were not made available in 2012 and 13, which have been probably made available in the regime of Prime Minister Modi.
Okay. In terms of prioritization, because you talked about how there are now 4 pillars as far as warfare and related to deterrence go, the argument would also be that is this really a key priority for India? We have seen our armed forces talk about the lack of resources, complain about the lack of budgets. Is this really a priority versus what we ought to be investing in?
No, I think the kind of investment which is needed for this kind of an exercise is a minuscule investment compared to what the armed forces need for meeting all the requirements. It doesn't make any major dent as far as the availability of resources for our armed forces is concerned. In fact, it actually strengthens their hands today, because having proven this ASAT capability, we have now also proven the capability that we can handle tomorrow an ICBM interception or IRBM interception using the ballistic missile defense infrastructure of the country. So it is going in a positive way as far as the country's defense is concerned. It is not a wasteful expenditure at all.
A thought or a comment, sir, for your colleagues currently at the DRDO who've been able to achieve this breakthrough?
Can you repeat your question?
I said a thought from you or a comment for your colleagues at the DRDO who've been able to achieve this breakthrough today.
Yeah, in fact, I would like to congratulate my colleagues in DRDO who have done such a wonderful job in such a short time and achieved such a major breakthrough in terms of developing a very agile and precise kinetic kill vehicle, and also the complete software for automated launch of a missile that within about 3 minutes you are able to hit the target with almost zero miss distance and finish the satellite. All this is a great technological achievement. My congratulations and kudos to all my colleagues scientists in DRDO and across the country.
Mr. Sarvasat, thanks very much for joining us. The former head of the DRDO there, taking us through what he makes of Mission Shakti, its implications and the road ahead for India. It's time now for
action of the day then. Profit taking in the post-lunch session of trade saw the benchmark indices end in the red. The Nifty gave up the 11,500 mark to end close to 0.5% lower. The Sensex followed suit to end 0.25% in the red. The broader markets outperformed the benchmarks, and the mid-caps ended 0.5% in the green, while the Nifty Bank closed above the 30,000 mark. Surbi is here with a detailed analysis of the day's trade. Surbi.
Some last-hour volatility and a day of profit-taking. That's how perhaps you can sum up Wednesday's action. It was all going fine in favor of the bulls till about 1:30, but that's when they decided to throw in the towel. The market has ended at the lows of the day, so that's something that one will have to keep on board. Mid-caps doing slightly better today. The mid-cap index managed some green. Auto stocks once again coming under pressure. However, do remember that it's been a good day for the Nifty Bank. That index still managed to close above the 30,000 mark. Let me now come down to stocks and talk about the big movers and shakers. There's profit taking, as I said, that was very, very apparent and evident. NTPC is something that really stands out. That stock was the biggest loser on some of the heavyweights that were leading to the decline screen. Again, pressure, marking close to the 6,500 level. More profit taking on Eicher Motors, Tata Motors down 2%. So it was really all fall down in the auto pack. Banks were showcasing mixed trends. There was pressure on names like HDFC Bank, on Kotak, even on ICICI Bank. But on the other side of the screen, you had a State Bank of India and a Yes Bank, which had a dream run today with a 5% gain. So fairly mixed on the banking side. Let me now move to the mid-caps. As I said, the screen was green here. There was a 0.5% gain coming in. So let me start with the winners. ICICI Prudential, where one of the existing investors has pared down their stake. That stock was up 9% once the OFS was done. Godrej Properties saw some additional buying, 5% on that stock. Kalpatru Power, Inox Leisure, these were some of the other names. And interestingly, PSU banks had a very good run today. OBC, Allahabad Bank, Union Bank, these were names that were on the upside of the screen, even in the afternoon when the market was falling. Last but not the least, another good day for Shriram Transport Finance. However, now let me talk about the mid-cap losers, because there was also some profit-taking going on. And here, stocks like Jubilant Life come to mind. This is a company that is, dealing with some US FDA woes, and that played out on the stock. Dabur, subdued commentary on the volumes front, down about 3% towards close. DLF and Vodafone Idea saw some more pressure today. So fairly mixed trends. Yes, we've seen profit taking. We'll have to see now in the next 2 days whether the bulls can resume their uptrend.
All right, Surbhi, thanks very much for joining in with that. Now, here's a big corporate story that we've been tracking for you today. Arun Kumar Purwar, the former chairman of State Bank of India, may likely be brought in to pilot Jet Airways. This comes days after Naresh and Anita Goyal decided to step down from the board of the cash-strapped airline as part of the airline's resolution plan. Now, we're given to understand that lenders will get 2 nominees to the board of Jet Airways, out of which one will be A.K. Purwar, whose name has almost been finalized, and the second nominee could be from a private sector lender in the consortium, which is either IDBI Bank, ICICI Bank, or perhaps even Yes Bank. But as far as the chairman's name is concerned, the board approval will be required to appoint A.K. Purwar as the next chairman, and that will happen at the next board meeting, which we're expecting will take place shortly. We did reach out to Mr. Purwar for his comment. However, he did not respond to CNBC-TV18's query. Now, with just 4 days left for the financial year to end, and CNBC-TV18 now learns that the government is staring at a revenue shortfall of approximately 60,000 crore rupees. Timsy Jaipuria joins in with more details. Timsy, how is the government planning to bridge the gap and meet this target?
Well, as you rightly mentioned, slow-paced growth of revenue collections is actually ringing fresh alarm bells for North Block. To be precise, both Revenue Secretary and Finance Minister are taking an update from both the divisions, that is direct taxes and indirect taxes, on a daily basis. Twice a day is what the update is. And what we understand on the collections bit, let me run across some numbers. As on March 25th, the direct tax collections were at about 10.23 lakh crore rupees. Now, this is versus the daunting target of 12 lakh crore rupees, which was the revised estimates presented in the union budget in February. Also, when it comes to GST collections, government is hopeful that the March number should be around 1 lakh crore rupees. But yes, right now the figures do not show a trend towards that. But yes, they are hopeful because government feels that March is the most yielding month of the entire fiscal, and only towards the end is when taxpayers try and do their year-end closing and put in their tax returns. So that is when they feel that the remaining 5 days which are up next are the crucial ones, where when government feels that collections could try and pick up. Also, what we understand when we spoke to government officials as to what could be the revenue deficit number when it comes to not meeting the target which was presented in the union budget, government officials did indicate that both direct and indirect revenues would be lower than the target numbers. But yes, a total revenue deficit from the target numbers is what they feel should be around 1 to 1.5 lakh crore rupees. That is a deficit coming in from both direct and indirect. But yes, nevertheless, the government is very hopeful. So are both the divisions of the tax department, that is direct and indirect. Government officials did say that revenues are slow right now, but they feel that the last few days of the month, that is the 25th to 31st, is when they feel people will put in their returns and they expect revenue collections to pick up. Let's see what happens and how much of a pressure does it put on the fiscal deficit numbers. Back to you.
Oh yes, Timsy, 31st March, an important date. Thanks very much for joining in with that story. But even with a 60,000 crore rupee tax revenue shortfall, the government seems confident of meeting its fiscal deficit target for the year. Sources tell CNBC-TV18 that the centre might dip into its savings and public account funds to help meet the deficit number. Sapna Das, who has been tracking that story, joins in with more details. Sapna, take us through what you've picked up.
Well, at this point in time, we are clearly given to understand that the revenue gap numbers, the tax revenue gap numbers may get crunched down to somewhere 60,000 crore levels by the time this week ends or the financial year comes to a close. So basically, that's the potential shortfall that the government may be staring at. But there is expectation of national savings on the expenditure budget side. Plus, there is also the option of using some of the funds, or at least partial usage of funds, which are kept under the public account. Coming to the expenditure side first, well, every year there are some national savings on the expenditure budget. This year, again, is not expected to be very different. So even if you take an estimate of 1.5 to 2% of the FY19 expenditure budget of 24.57 lakh odd crores, you are looking at a significant savings over there. Savings indicating basically money that may remain unspent in FY19. So that could be a kind of a fiscal relief for the government. On the second part of the public accounts, you have the National Small Savings Fund, which is part of the public account. You also have the GST cess kitty, which is part of that. Borrowings against National Small Savings Fund is not calculated as part of your fiscal deficit. So if required to meet certain public expenditures, the government may look at that option if required. Second, of course, in terms of the compensation cess kitty, and here let me, mention the budget numbers that came out in Feb 1. Even at the time of the revised estimates of FY19, when the government went from 3.3 to 3.4% of the fiscal deficit, when they moved that goal post, they had indicated that they'll be taking 29,000 odd crores from the GST compensation cess. If required, that estimate can be raised further. We are given to understand that there could be some savings in the GST compensation cess kitty as of now. So that's the second option that they may be looking at. Overall, as of now, we are given to understand that 3.4, the government will be close to that by the end of the financial year. And even if it's 3.4112%, for example, even in that, the government may be able to save another like 3 to 4 odd thousand crores. So technically, you remain on course. That's the story as of now. Let's see how the numbers really pan out. But 3.4 is what it's looking like end of March.
All right, Sapna, thank you very much for joining in with that. Now, petroleum subsidies are expected to hit a multi-year high, with LPG direct benefit transfers alone expected to cost the government between 31,000 to 33,000 crore rupees in FY19. A majority of this will have to be rolled over to FY20, which will put pressure on the government's fiscal math. Now, in light of this, the government is looking to tighten the eligibility criteria for LPG subsidies. Anshu Sharma has been tracking that story and brings us the details. Anshu.
Direct benefit transfer for LPG consumers for FY19 was revised to 16,477.8 crore rupees, but sources add that subsidy via DBT for LPG in the current financial year in FY19 is expected to be in the range of 31 to 33,000 crore rupees. Also remember, there was a rollover from FY18 under the LPG subsidy head for about 12,000 crore rupees, which means that close to 4,500 crore rupees will be adjusted this financial year, and there will be a rollover of about 26 to 28,000 crore rupees next financial year. Now, this increase in LPG subsidy is a cause of worry for the Finance Ministry, and we understand that the ministry is discussing to lower the eligibility criteria for subsidy via DBT for LPG to individuals earning 5 lakh rupees per annum. The current cap, however, for subsidy is at 10 lakh rupees for subsidy transfer for LPG for individuals. Now, sources suggest that Finance Ministry has sought data of individuals under the 5 lakh per annum salary bracket from the Income Tax Department. Now, April 2018 to Feb 2019, cumulative growth of LPG consumption has been 6.4%, and in the same period, 4.18 crore LPG connections were released, which includes about 3 crore connections under the scheme of Ujjwala. So far, government has added 7.18 crore connections under the Ujjwala scheme. Now, there is a consumption increase for LPG, and so is the subsidy. Now, the government is trying to find a balance how to reduce the subsidy burden. Back to you.
All right, Anshu, thanks very much for joining in with that. Now, here's the latest in the Essar Steel resolution case. The Committee of Creditors is meeting today to look at redistribution of that 42,000 crore rupees that has been deposited by ArcelorMittal as the successful resolution applicant. The National Company Law Appellate Tribunal has told the Committee of Creditors that it cannot allow only 4% of the bid amount to be given to the operational creditors. Ashmit Kumar was at that court during the hearing and joins us now. Ashmit, a solution is in sight, hopefully?
Well, that would at least be the hope of the creditors in question, the lenders in question, as well as the different stakeholders. But as of right now, what we can tell our viewers is that the COC met this afternoon, and this is on account of an NCLAT order which had very clearly directed that the lenders need to meet once again and need to reconsider the question of distribution of the Arcelor bid of 42,000 crore rupees. Now, the genesis of the issue essentially arises out of the fact that the lenders currently, the financial creditors, have secured 92% of this 42,000 crore rupee bid for themselves, leaving just 4% for the operational creditors, and that is something that the NCLAT has expressed time and time again is simply uncomfortable with, and in fact at the last hearing had directed the lenders to reconvene once again and to reconsider this distribution along the lines of the NCLT Ahmedabad order. Now, the NCLT Ahmedabad order had very clearly held that as far as this distribution is concerned, it will have to take place in an 85 to 15% breakup. That's the breakup they had suggested. That's what the COC will be looking at. As of today, the NCLAT has held that the COC again needs to take a reasoned view. They need to balance all the concerns, and that 4% is a figure that is just not doable or workable, and that's the stance that the NCLAT has taken. The COC will give an opinion once the meeting concludes, and the next hearing in this case will be on April 9th.
All right, Ashmit, April 9th is the next important day to watch out for in that very long, dragging Essar Steel case. But with that, we're timed out in this edition of Reporter's Diary. Thank you for watching. Do stay tuned to CNBC-TV18. Up next, Power Talk with the PNG India head, Madhusudan Gopalan.